Sorry we're a bit late because we had sleep this morning. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce Rabbi Son, our new community rabbi, and to give us some words of Torah.
Thank you. Morning, everyone. Morning. I want to test people's imagination this time in the morning. I want us to imagine the following scenario. We are live. We are recorded, I believe. Yeah, we are. Recording is in progress. You shouldn't hear it because Stephen was talking. I want to imagine the following scenario. You have been charged with a particular crime, unfortunately. Obviously, you're innocent, but you've been charged with a particular crime. And you have to go to court to defend yourself. So the case is laid out before you. And it's quite a compelling case, unfortunately. And then the judge turns to you, and the judge says, do you have anything to say in your defense? Anything to say in your defense? And you say, yes, I do. And then you reach into your briefcase, you've got a briefcase with, you reach it in front, and you take out from it quite a strange object. You take out from it two cymbals, the musical instrument, two cymbals. And you take out, yes, I've got something to say in my defense. You take out the two cymbals, and you go, judge says, anything else? And you say, yes. You go, is that it? And you say, no. That's the chauffeur. Right, that's what's happening here with the chauffeur. It seems very bizarre. At that point in the court case, you're probably thinking, I probably should have got that lawyer, actually. That would have been a good decision there. But this is what's happening next week. It comes to Rosh Hashanah, and we are there on Yom Hadin, on the Day of Judgment. A very scary day. We're told the angels are trembling. And what's our defense? What are we going to say before Hashem? What are we going to do? We're going to blow the trumpet. We're going to blow the shofar. We're going to make that noise. The Tkiya, the Shfarim, the Teruah. That's what we're going to do. The question is, what's going on? How does that make sense? What are we doing that for? This isn't playtime. This isn't a nice musical exercise. It's Yom Hadin. It's the Day of Judgment. We're sitting there waiting to decide our fate for the coming year. And when it comes to the case of our defense, all we do is we make some noise. We blow a ram's horn. What's that all about? So this is the first question I'm going to throw it out, which is, what on earth is going on with the shofar, and why do we blow it on Rosh Hashanah? And I just want to throw that out to start the share. We have an interactive share today, so please do get involved. Why do we blow the shofar on Rosh Hashanah? How does it make sense? Because it says so is always a good answer. It's like we always used to do discussions with the youth, and we'd ask them questions, say, what would you do in this situation? They'd always say, I'd ask the rabbi. I said, no, that's a cheat. You can't say that. Okay, what would you do? So why do we blow the shofar? Because it says so. Why does it say so?
Bring our attention to the fact that we
Bring our attention to the fact that we are asking for forgiveness. How does it bring our attention to that? If you didn't know that that's what the shofar was, it wakes you up. Oh, okay. This is the classic answer. I actually had a friend who were youth directing in a certain shul where their bedroom backed on to where the shul was. So actually, they would be quite literally woken up in the morning by the shofar first thing because they could hear it all through the wall. That's the idea. Okay, the shofar wakes you up. I have a couple of questions on that. One of them we're going to come to. The second question is as follows. What's the point of being woken up on Rosh Hashanah? I understand now we're in Elul. Now wake me up. You need like the alerts. If anyone sets those alerts on your phone, there's no point setting an alert to come up when something's happening. It has to come up an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, a week before, so you know it's coming. What's the point of being woken up? It's already here. It's Yom Hadin. What's the point of being woken? Why do we need to be woken up on? Surely we're already awake on Rosh Hashanah. On Elul, I understand every day, prep, get ready. On Rosh Hashanah, we need to be woken up? Not so sure. Let's come back to that question. Okay, the second question I have is the halakhic question. And it actually reminded me of a story. When I was, a few years ago during COVID, I was delivering magazines, the shul magazines, to certain people, not in Edgware. There was a group, quite a lot of people actually in a particular place. It was not in Edgware, and I took a bunch of the magazines and delivered all around that place. And I had a few conversations with people, and someone said to me, is the shul zooming the shofar on Rosh Hashanah? Are you going to put it on Zoom? I said, no, no, we're not doing that. And they got very angry with me. They said, well, why not? That's very not nice. It's not inclusive. It's not good. I was trying to, I'm very sorry. We're not allowed to Zoom on Rosh Hashanah. Okay, we tried to explain it to them. I'm not sure they really understood. Question is this. If we could find a halakhic way to Zoom or go on the phone on Rosh Hashanah, this is a theoretical question, but if we could, would we fulfill our mitzvah, our obligation, by hearing the shofar over the phone or over Zoom? No. So why not?
Because you have to hear it.
I am hearing it.
No.
Why not?
Live.
Why do I have to hear the real thing?
Because that's what we heard at Sinai.
Okay. Why else? So everyone's saying no, that wouldn't be acceptable. Now the truth is,
It's the least bad thing, but it's not. You
haven't fulfilled your obligation.
But you've done something. You've been reminded that you.
Okay, so there's maybe something there, but you haven't fulfilled your obligation.
It's not the same thing when you hear it through.
It's not the same thing, 100%. And the poskim don't discuss this at all because they wouldn't be discussing a situation where one second, where we're, sorry? How?
They discuss it.
Okay, there we go. Okay, so this is what we're going to talk. Poskim don't discuss this case at all of the phone because obviously one can't go on the phone on Rosh Hashanah. However, what they do discuss, which both Rabbi Shisler and Aryeh were going to say, is they do discuss the case of what happens if you blow the shofar in a bore, in a pit. What happens in that case? The pit's very echoey. So you blow the shofar in the pit and then the other person hears not the sound of the shofar, but the echo of the shofar. Would that be acceptable or not? And the answer is no, because you have to hear the shofar itself. You have to hear the shofar itself. You can't hear the echo of the shofar. And technology is a little bit different. But again, when we hear something through Zoom, through the phone, we're not hearing the thing itself. It's also a question we have with davening. Can we be part of a minyan on Zoom? A similar question. We're not hearing the actual words itself, so that would not be acceptable. Question is, if the whole idea of shofar, as we said, is to wake us up, what difference does it make? I hear the noise and it wakes me up. What difference does it make if it's over the phone, or if it's over Zoom, or if it's in person, or if it's an echo? I hear the noise, it wakes me up, I'm ready to do teshuvah. I'm not going to mistake that noise for anything else, it's very distinctive. So why should it make a difference? We might as well just say, let's go, that's good, let's fulfill our obligation that way. So the question we've got to get to is really what's going on with shofar. Why are we doing it on Rosh Hashanah? Why does it have to be the sound of the shofar itself? And to go with that, one idea that we didn't mention about why we say the shofar on Rosh Hashanah is the connection to the Akedah story, the story of Akedat Yitzhak. Okay, we know this is the laning, this is the Torah reading that we do on Rosh Hashanah itself. There's a question, which is what is the most important part of the Akedah story? What is the crucial part of the Akedah story? Again, this is interactive. I'm throwing it out. Anyone have any thoughts?
At that moment, there was the ram.
The moment there was the ram. Why is that the most important part? I think Arnie knew that's what I wanted to say, so he's jumped me there. But why is that? Well, first of all, the angel comes, or Hashem comes and says, stop, don't sacrifice your son. And Avram says, phew, great. And then, he raises his eyes and he looks, and what does he see? He sees the ram stuck in the thicket, and he goes and sacrifices it to Hashem. So if you're going to talk about what's the most important part of the story, actually that seems like a nice anecdote at the end of the story. Seems like, the key part is Abraham was willing, despite everything, to sacrifice his son, and it was the ultimate test, and he was willing to do it to listen to Hashem, and it shows us that we can, on our own level, overcome our tests and listen to Hashem, and he's going to go through with it, and Hashem says, stop, it was just a test, and it's sort of a nice ending to a very dramatic story. And then there's a ram at the end, Abraham offers a sacrifice. It's not that relevant, seemingly. However, one of my Rebbeim, Rav Reuben Targin, talked about this, and he liked to say that this is the key point. This is the key, the point that Arnie mentioned, the ram at the end of the story, that's the key part of the story. Everything is leading up to that. Why? Because what's the message? you've been through this trial. Imagine Abraham, he's been through this trial, having waited 100 years to have a son, or to have a son with his wife Sarah at least. And then he has his son, he's raising him, he loves him, he's got his legacy is going to be continued. And Hashem says, go and sacrifice him, destroy your whole life's work, and kill your son, all in one moment. Go and do that. And Abraham says, okay, and he goes and does it, because such is his obedience to Hashem. And he goes and he takes him up, and they travel together, and they go alone together, the final steps of the journey up to the top of Har Moriah, and they get to the top, and Abraham has literally bound Yitzchak up because he doesn't want to move and blemish his sacrifice, and he's got the knife right there, he's ready to do the actual act of the shechting of Yitzchak, and there's a voice, stop. That seems to be, what's happening. And we would have thought at that point that what would Abraham do? What would any of us do? He'd say, phew. Thank God, literally, and go home. That's with the natural reaction. We've had a trial, a tribulation, a difficult time. What do? We say, phew, we move on. Maybe we thank Hashem, but we move on. And we try to get out there as quickly as possible. Abraham does the opposite. After that whole thing, the special thing about Abraham, which is our legacy that he's passed on to us, is even after the challenge and the trial and the tribulation, he raises his eyes, Vayisa enough, and he looks for an opportunity. Okay, I couldn't serve Hashem in that way, and I'm thankful. How can I serve Hashem? What good can I do? I see the ram there in the thickets. I'm going to offer that as a sacrifice. That's what Abraham does, looking for good, not just doing it when it's right in front of you. That's what we're supposed to be, looking for good, not just right when it's right in front of you. And that's why the ram and the ram's horn becomes the symbol of the story and its connection to Rosh Hashanah. It still doesn't really answer the question, however, of why we need to blow the shofar. We could have had another symbol of the ram, or we could have just told the story of the Kedah Yitzchak. Why do we need to actually blow the shofar? Why is the sound and the pure sound of the shofar itself not an echo, not through a device? Why is that so important? For that, we need to look earlier in the parsha that we also read on Rosh Hashanah. And there's a fascinating couple of pasukim, a fascinating couple of verses that say the following. I'll read it in Hebrew and English. Vayoma Yitzchak el Avraham aveh, vayoma avi, vayoma hineni v'ni, vayoma hinei ha'esh v'ayitzim v'ayeh hasel le'olah, vayoma Avraham, Elokim yireh lo hasel le'olah b'nei v'yilchu shnehem yachdav. Okay? There's a particular word that comes up again and again in that, which is vayomer. Comes up 5 times in those 2 pasukim. It's particularly interesting and unique because we're not really told of the conversations between our forefathers unless they're imperative to the story. We don't know what the inner workings of when Yosef learned with Yaakov, what did they say to each other in the morning? We don't know Yitzchak's interactions with Yaakov besides those few times that were crucial turning points, and so on and so on. We don't know. We don't know how they spoke to each other. The Torah doesn't tell us. And this point it goes on and it tells us this very inconsequential interaction. And Yitzchak says to his father, Abraham, father, and he answered, yes, my son. And he said, here's the fire and the stone and the wood. Where's the sheep for the burnt offering? And Abraham said to him, God will provide it. And there's this whole conversation that doesn't seem to be necessary to the story. There's a powerful idea here that Yitzhak and Abraham are on their way to this very traumatic and very trying and this really quite terrible event that's going to happen. And yet they're conversing. Abraham is saying to Yitzhak, and the Torah is telling us this to drive home this message, that it's as if Abraham is saying, I don't quite know what's going to happen. Hashem will hopefully provide. Hopefully everything will make sense. But whatever happens, I'm here and I'm speaking and I'm with you and you're not alone. And let's talk to each other and let's be with each other and let's communicate. And that's the key idea. Just that word vayomer over and over again. That's how it has to be when people are in hard time. We have to be here for them and talk to them. And that in of itself is so important. And we actually see the opposite earlier in the Parsha with Hagar. When she was in trouble and she thought her child was going to die, Yishmael, she put him so far away that she couldn't hear him. It was the complete opposite. But with Abraham, when he thinks his child's on the way to die, he says, Vayomer, 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 Hineni, Hineni v'ni, I'm here for you, my son. I'm here. It's talking over and over again. And I said this idea before in shul, but a lot of people came up to me afterwards and said that they had a similar experience, either themselves or through someone else, that one of my teachers, when I was very, very young, I was only about 8 or 9, but I remember it so clearly to this day. So it was very powerful. He told a story about a friend of his who was lost her father when she was in university. She was very young and she had the shiva and he didn't go to the shiva. And she saw him later and she said to him, how come you never came to the shiva? And he said, I didn't know what to say. And she said, you didn't have to say anything, you just had to be there. And I'm sure other people have experienced this either themselves or through visiting other people. And I had the opportunity when I was when Rabbi Lister was in sabbatical, I had the opportunity to do lots of hospital visits. And you have that as well. Not that we don't speak to people when we're there, but just being there sometimes, they have no idea who I am. No one there had any idea who I am. In fact, the first person I visited, I was wondering maybe we would have seen each other in shul, or maybe they would have seen me in the newsletter and they'd at least know who I was. But then, when I was sort of explaining that I was here because Rabbi Lister was on sabbatical, they referred to Rabbi Lister as the new rabbi. And I thought that I've got no chance then if Rabbi Lister is the new rabbi. But just the fact of being there sometimes and speaking, that is so important. That notion of communication, even if it's not what we say, it's the fact that we're trying to communicate. And there's an idea we say that comes up in our tefillah, in Vidoy, in our confession on Yom Kippur, where we say, "Man o man lefanecha yashem marom, u'man nesapeh lefanecha shochen shechakim, halo kol hanistarot v'negalot ata yodea." What can we say before you, who dwells on high? What shall we relate to you, who dwells in heaven? For everything, both hidden and revealed, you know. What can we say? And this is really the question of Rosh Hashanah, because it comes to Rosh Hashanah, and the question is, what can we say? What words can we possibly have? Last year on Rosh Hashanah, we came before Hashem, and we begged and beseeched Hashem, give me another year. Give me more time. Give me life, so that I can do good. For your sake, let me have more time, and I'll do good, and I'll be better, and it'll be positive, and everything will be amazing. And Hashem gave us that time. And what did we do with it? Maybe some good. Probably a lot of things not as good. A lot of time wasted. A lot of time not spent as productively as it could have been. A lot of time, God forbid, sinning, not doing the right thing. And now we come before Hashem again this year and say, give me more time. Give me another year. Give me life. Again, we're asking the same question. What words can we say? Last year, what did we do with it? Not as much as we could have. How are we supposed to say that? It's like going back before an investor when you've already squandered all their money. Give me a little bit more. What are we supposed to say? What words can you have? And the answer is we don't really have the words. We have our beautiful tefillot and we have our davening. It's not really enough. What words can we say when we're sitting on Yom Hadin and we're saying, give me life? This time, I'll make the most of it. I'll make the most of it. Give me one more year. Give me this 365 or whatever it is in the Jewish calendar. Give me those days. Give me that chance. And we don't have the words. And therefore comes the gift of the shofar, which is a primal sound from an animal. It's raw. And it's just a noise of us saying to Hashem, we're trying. We want to communicate. We want to communicate this idea that we want to be better. We want the time, lemancha, to live for your sake, to do the right thing. Give us that time. We don't have the words to fully express how we feel, but just hear our voices, that we're trying to speak, that we're trying to communicate, that we're trying to create that connection and that relationship in order to propel us to the coming year. And that sound, that noise, that primal noise becomes the most beautiful and deep and profound of all sounds that we can make. Is an idea, just to finish, from one of the tefillot we say on the Yom Noraim, Achila the Kel, which is one of my favorites. I won't say how one should say it or sing it because Rabbi Shisler is next to me and will elbow me profusely. But there's an idea from it where we say, Adam marche leiv, L'Hashem maneh lashon. That a man, it's for us, it's for humans. We fix our hearts. We set our hearts. Who do we want to be? Who are we going to be? And Hashem will create the beautiful expression. Now, that's a chazan's prayer in its literal sense, but it's also a prayer that we can take for this message. That Hashem says, if you fix your heart and you decide you want to be better, and you're going to do teshuvah, and this is going to be a better year, and you're going to live lamancha, you're going to live for Hashem's sake, and we're going to fix the things that were wrong in the previous year. We don't have the words. We don't have to have the words. Just reach out to me, cry out to me, the cry of the shofar, and Hashem will turn it for us. It's the most beautiful expression and prayer. And please God, He will answer our prayers. And please God, we shall have a ketiva v'chatima tova, be inscribed in the book of life, and it should be a good year for us, for Israel, for the Jewish people, and for the world.
Thank you very much.